Giuseppe, we've been working together for a few weeks now, learning about the project. I guess you've learned a lot about QUOINE in our interactions. And so I think for this meeting, what we've done is we've gathered some questions from the community. And I think it could be a great opportunity for both, for us to explain a little bit about QUOINE, cryptos, where we've been, where we're going, and also, also for the QUOINE community to learn more about the Thrive project. So let's get started. So the first question we got was about the verification process and how that can be time consuming. So I think that's a great question. And I think the criticism and the concern is actually quite valid, right? Let me start with this. So QUOINE as an entity, I guess our roots are that we are a regulated and licensed exchange. QUOINE received its cryptocurrency license from the Japanese Financial Services Authority in September of 2017. And so as a licensee, we really have no choice, and it is our choice to actually, follow all best practices with KYC. And we tend to err on the side of caution. But that said, what we've done in the past, say, 2 to 3 months is invest heavily in the process. And specifically what we've done is we brought in some vendors to really automate the process. The new process I'm speaking of went live as recently as Wednesday last week. And what we're finding is after, about 1 week of being live is that in the ideal scenario where someone provides us with all the documentation, the government identification, the selfie, it's well lit, the name matches with what they enter and what's on their government IDs, is that they're actually getting verified in a minute or less. Currently, that total success rate is probably at about 5%, but we think that over the next couple of weeks, we're gonna be able to bump up that sort of 1 minute or less verification process to closer to 30–40% of all participants. And the ones that don't get verified within a minute, we think you can get the most of those done in less than a day. So look, it's not as fast as some exchanges that will let you sign up with a burner email address and fake identification, but we're not really sort of competing in that area. We're trying to be, compliant to the extent that we can, and really try to create the best user experience at the same time.
Okay, Seth, a lot of people from Thrive community mainly are a little bit worried about not only of the verification process you have explained, but also about the withdrawal process that right now is very slow. Some of them in the community explained that they are using crypto since a while, and this is related to the fact that you are using cold wallet, and it's also related to the security of the exchange itself. Can you maybe articulate better so at least everyone is on the same page?
Again, a great question, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of speak to the point. So QUOINE, as well as cryptos, we employ what we would call a cold wallet strategy. So what does that really mean versus a hot wallet strategy? It means that the blockchain address where we store client assets has a key that we maintain offline, that when we do the transaction signing process, it's completely separated from the internet. The computer where we sign the transactions never sees the internet. The transaction file is secured, so we've eliminated any possibility of hacking. On the other hand, it's slower, right? Because it's a manual process, and because we have to physically take the transaction file and move it to an offline computer where we do the signing, and then move it back to an online computer where we upload the transactions and broadcast out to the blockchain, it's just inherently slow. And so it's a fair criticism that the process is not as fast as, say, an exchange that does a hot wallet withdrawal process. We get it. That said, QUOINE has never been hacked. We place the security of client assets at the very center of what we do. we really believe that, you know, if we were to be hacked, and it would be reputationally, the damage to our reputation would not be something we could really recover from, nor do we want to even try to recover it from. So as recently as 2 months ago in Japan, one of the biggest exchanges at the time, CoinCheck, was hacked for about $500 million. I think a lot of the people in the community are pretty familiar with that. So CoinCheck, for example, was using a hot wallet strategy, and the hackers were able to withdraw the funds from one of their online wallets in a very short period of time before CoinCheck was really aware of what was going on. And CoinCheck, essentially they got bailed out, but the exchange was really illiquid, and it was a big problem for the people on the exchange. They took a very severe haircut on their assets that got hacked through no fault of their own. And so we've decided that, you know, we're going to stick with our cold wallet storage. However, we recognize there's definitely room for improvement. So currently on Cryptos, we're processing withdrawals either 1 or sometimes 2 times a day. And we recognize that there's a lot of people in the community want a faster response. So what we're doing is refactoring our current withdrawal process, where we think we can make improvements while still maintaining a cold wallet offline storage of the private key, but maybe get up to, say, 3 times per day of withdrawals. So if you're trying to do an arbitrage strategy between one exchange and another, this 3 times per day withdrawal is probably not going to work. But we think that there's a broad community of traders and investors that are going to be okay with 3 times a day. And the trade-off of higher level of security is well worth sort of the delay. And there's also another point you mentioned, Giuseppe, that I really want to clarify. We should not confuse the timing of the withdrawal with liquidity, because they're 2 very, very different things. An exchange that has a hot wallet and it gets hacked has a risk of liquidity. That's a very different issue. Or maybe they're not hacked, but they just don't have the assets on hand. That's a very different issue than to say the process is slow, because they're different things. And I think it's important for people to understand that.
Okay, super. So another thing that mainly was worrying a bit the community, and I think you have a strategy plan to increase your volume and a little bit how to structure Cryptos go-to-market strategy itself, right? Can you articulate a little bit more there, right? The people wants to know how you want to grow, what is your plan? We spoke about it several times, about not only crypto to crypto exchange, but also crypto to fiat, this liquid project. I'm sure not everybody knows about it, so I think it's a good chance for you to clarify.
It's a great question. So I want to start with where we've come from, where we are, and then we'll talk about where we're heading. So Cryptos actually went beta at September of 2017. So I guess the platform is about 7 months old. And we started off really just populating some tokens that we had provided on the platform, Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin and Stellar and a few others. And so from the end of last year in December, we started aggressively reaching out to different token projects and starting to onboard them onto the exchange and really build up the exchange. So if I look at where our volumes were in December, at the December of 2017, we were trading about, say, $1 to $2 million a day on the exchange in total. If I look where we are today, I looked at it today, it was a little bit low today, but we're pretty consistently at about $20 to $25 million a day of daily volume. So that's roughly a 10x increase in about 4 months. And the rate that we're growing, we certainly have set our expectation to be at 40 million a day by the end of April, right? So we may not get quite to 40, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get to 30 million at the end of the day. How are we doing this? Number one, we're aggressively adding in new tokens. Another big part of it is we've really invested a lot in the onboarding process. So we're making it much easier for people to get on board and start trading. Number three, we're bringing in a lot more market makers who are providing liquidity to the exchange, and they have connections to other exchanges, and they're looking to provide cryptos as another source of liquidity in their trading strategies. And then if we go forward, and we can start talking about the liquid platform, it's also an important sort of understanding where we're heading as an entity, as QUOINE. So one thing we did is we bought the domain name Liquid, and we're going to be QUOINE today. We actually have two exchanges. We have Cryptos, which is a crypto to crypto only exchange, and we have CoinEx, which is a crypto to fiat exchange. And we actually bought the domain name Liquid, and we're actually unifying those two platforms. And that's actually, we've already started the testing of that, and we will be unifying the platforms fully by June of this year. So this is not a long ways off. This is actually coming up over the next month and a half or so. And when we do this, what it means is that we're going to have a gateway for trading a lot of, let's call it altcoins. I really don't like that term, but I need something better. But we're going to have a pathway for trading these other tokens versus fiat pairings. The other thing is, because the CoinEx is a fiat-based exchange, it already has very large volumes, into the hundreds of millions. I looked at today, CoinEx is actually the 13th largest exchange in the world. So by combining what we're doing on cryptos and together combining it with CoinEx, we're going to have a lot more liquidity that's going to benefit all the market participants.
Right. So okay, now what you said is like you are unifying the crypto to crypto exchange to the crypto to fiat, and this is providing much more liquidity. This is absolutely good, but in terms of UI, okay, once those two platforms will be merged, is there planned any improvement of the user friendliness? Because today one of the problem that people are mainly showing up every time they are using the platform, at least in my community, is that they find some poor review in the web about usability of the platform, right? So I was wondering if maybe there is a way to customize the UI, or you are planning any improvement of the UI just to make it more appealing to the user that are going there.
Again, it's a perfectly valid criticism. We accept it, we acknowledge it. What I can also say is that we have been working furiously even the past 2 months to make it much more user-friendly. And the thing I always tell to our engineering team, and when I look at it, is it's got to be easy enough that my mom can figure it out, which is, and my mom's not the most sophisticated trader in the world, I would say. So what are we doing? Number one, we hired John Myers, who is one of the most well-known UX designers in the fintech arena. And he's really moving us to a human-centered design, focusing on usability at the key inflection points of the exchange customer journey. So John actually has 25 years of experience. He just joined us 2 weeks ago, and we could already start to see massive changes happening in our UI. You can already see it in our withdrawal screens and our deposit screens. Things are just getting much, much easier for the community. And we think that this stream of improvements is really going to pick up pace over the next few weeks and months. I would just give one real anecdote. One of the issues we had last year and earlier this year was we saw a lot of people were making deposits. For instance, they were making a deposit for ETC into their ETH wallet address, right? And so it was ending up where there was a cross-chain issue where they weren't able to access the ETC that they deposited to an ETH wallet address. And so it was a big problem. People wanted their tokens back, and it was a very time-consuming process for us to retrieve those tokens. One of the things we did is we just in March was we improved the user interface by including the icons of the different tokens, so it was really clear to the user which wallet they were actually making the deposit to. And I was looking at the statistics today, and the number of incorrect deposits had dropped less than 10% of what they had been, say, in December or January of this year. So I think if people just take a look at the platform, they'll see, if they looked at it maybe 3 months ago and they look at it now, they'll already see really big changes. And we're going to have a lot more coming. John, in fact, is going to be doing his own AMA about the work that he is doing to, again, focus on the usability and putting people at the center of the customer journey on the platform.
Okay, right. Now, coming back to really understand your point of view on token listing, right? So there is a big debate in my community where people actually are discussing about the opportunity and the threat of listing first a token on a mid-range exchange compared to a top 10 one, right? So do you have any case study of tokens that has been listed recently in your platform and turned out in a positive volumes or above the ICO price? Just to understand maybe this mechanism and to have your point of view on this matter.
It's a great question. We have not done a detailed statistical analysis of the tokens post-listing. But I think it's important to understand the context and the environment that we're operating in, right? So I think, as I mentioned, we really started aggressively adding in tokens to cryptos. So I think today we probably have close to 70 tokens on cryptos. Whereas at the end of last year, I think it was in December, it was probably in the mid-20s, right? So we've really ramped it up in the past 3 months. But at the same time, what you've seen, I'm sure as everyone knows, you know, Bitcoin right around that same time, from December to say March, Bitcoin went from, I think it was around 7,000, got up to like 19, 20,000, and now we've come all the way back down. And so a lot of the tokens that we listed were done where there was an ICO that was occurring when crypto prices were much higher than they are. So what you've seen is that a lot of the tokens are also much lower because the correlation between the lower cap tokens and say like a big cap like Bitcoin, it's quite high. I was looking at a study tonight that the correlations are really anywhere between 75 to 85%. So as Bitcoin comes down, it's really almost certain that a lot of the other tokens will go down in value as well. I really don't believe this has anything to do with cryptos. I think if you look at the overall market, you'll see the exact same trends. Perhaps it's more pronounced on crypto simply because we've really, at this same period of time, we've built out the platform and we've been listing a lot of tokens at that time. But let's look at the positive side of the story. So I guess about 2 weeks ago, we listed a token called Token Pay. And this token is actually now trading well above its ICO price with very healthy volumes. Because, you know, even in a down market, you know, strong projects with MVPs, with, you know, a robust roadmap, good partnerships, they do quite well. And I would ask anyone to take a look at Token Pay. It's now trading at something like $1 million a day in volume. The price is quite a bit higher than when it listed. So there's success stories as well, but what I guess is very specific. It's non-systemic. It's really a case-by-case study. The last thing I would just say here is that what you won't see on cryptos that you do see on some of these larger exchanges is what I would call the Burj Khalifa move, right? Where the token goes listed, goes straight up, and then it goes straight down because I don't want to talk about why. I don't know. The reason why I don't know, because we don't do it on our platform, right? We do not allow for price manipulation. We're not looking for the Burj Khalifa moves. We want to provide a secure trading environment with stable pricing where ultimately it's the market forces that determine the price of the token.
Okay, so actually I have a last question, right? That is because mainly we touched all the main questions my community had so far. But I would say if you want to summarize in one or two sentences why the community of a project like Thrive that actually rise at 25 million have community on Telegram of 40K people. Why those 40K people shouldn't be worried if Thrive is going listed on cryptos?
What I would say is look at not only where we're at, but where we're going. Look at our management team. Look at what QUOINE has done as an entity. So, number one, we did our own ICO last year. We raised north of $100 million. We're using that to invest and grow in our platform. We have a management team with, I think it said in our white paper, over 200 years of experience in the financial services industry. We all left. I left a career in financial services to come and help develop the exchange, as well as many of my colleagues in the team. And we're really doing some innovative work, right? So we're thinking, what are the next steps in the evolution of the cryptocurrency economy, really, the crypto economy. So one of the key things that's coming up is our liquid platform, where we're really trying to bring liquidity to illiquid markets. And we're creating, a new technology where someone in their home currency, let's say they're trading, for instance, Singapore dollars against Bitcoin. That's a fairly illiquid market. What we're doing with liquid is that we're able to take different illiquid pools, different markets, and bring them together and do a price discovery mechanism where someone trading against Singapore dollar and Bitcoin can actually access liquidity that's available in the Bitcoin BTC market. And the way we do this is we will do an underlying FX trade between Singapore dollar and US dollar, which is very liquid, and then a US dollar versus BTC market. And we're doing this all under the hood, but the trader who's trading in their home currency will have access to very tight spreads and very deep liquidity that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And so we feel like we're really innovating. This liquid technology and platform that I've mentioned a few times, this was the basis of our ICO. It was the reason why we got so much support from other exchanges, from all sorts of people in the crypto community. And this is coming, this is in our roadmap in the very near future. I would encourage the community to learn. We've got lots of videos about liquid, what's coming up. And we think there's going to be big things in store for all of the partners that join our exchange. The last one I would just say is that, look, we put the security of client assets at the center of all that we do. But it's not just our thinking, it's what we have to do. So we spend a lot of time dealing with regulators. We're audited by a Big Four auditing firm, Deloitte and Touche. I deal with them almost on a daily basis. We have to demonstrate segregation of assets, right? So that means that we're actually demonstrating to authorities that we have all the client assets that we need to have. And this should help people understand that we're in it for the long haul, that their assets are going to be there tomorrow. And at the same time, we're trying to innovate our platforms and improve it to create a better experience.
Right. So I would say this is answering majority of the question Thrive community had. I would use maybe the last 2-3 minutes to tell a little bit more about Thrive and why we did this MAA with you guys, right? So first of all, for whoever doesn't know about Thrive, Thrive is a project that was born more than 1.5 years ago from a company that was actively working on the marketing industry. And Thrive is aiming to be the first decentralized premium marketplace. So it's a place where you can buy and sell advertising. But on the first innovation that we have in Thrive is like embedding the community inside the product. That is something that nobody's doing, because you have a lot of competitors in the digital market industry, but none of them is really embedding the community in the product itself. Right? So we are doing it in 2 ways. The first way is that, and is a very, very actual topic. So you have heard today like Facebook issue about data sharing and people that doesn't understand that they are sharing their data for free, right? And they are doing even today. So a marketplace without any user data doesn't worth anything. So we need data to go on, but we want to have people aware that they are sharing their data. So the first thing that's different is that we are not asking for personal data, but we are asking for behavioral data. That is very, very different. So we track the behavior, what they like, what they don't like, what is their navigation path. And for the first time, they get rewarded for it. So they are voluntarily exchanging the data, and they know that they are doing it. And thanks to that, since they are the backbone of our industry, they get rewarded with the token. The second way how the community is embedded in the product is that actually the community has completely the right to judge if a publisher deserve to be in our platform or not. How? Actually today, the problem is that there is a lot of issue because if you cannot afford to spend a lot of money on advertising, you don't know actually where your banner is going to, right? There are a lot of crappy websites, porno website, pedophile, and so on. So you cannot even control where your banner is going unless you can afford a lot of money of advertising. And a lot of competitors, what they are doing, they are just putting in place the artificial intelligence algorithm that are mainly monitoring the traffic of those publishers, and they understand if they are good or not. We are doing exactly the same, but we still believe that technology is helping a lot, but we still need the human touch to really recognize if there is a quality content or not. So how the system is working, every time a publisher is coming in our network, the blockchain is sending out 25 concurrent user review. So 25 users randomly will get the chance to review the quality of the website. And only the one that is doing the best review, there is an algorithm to avoid bias and mainly to give the prize to the one that is converging to the mean, get rewarded in token again. You know? So mainly the community has full control of the data. They are for the first time getting rewarded. And again, has the control to say, this guy deserves to be there or not. So whatever is the amount of money I can afford in advertising, my brand is safe. Or at least there is a mitigation plan for it. So since the community is really the backbone of Thrive, as soon as we say that we worked together with QUOINE and Cryptos to get listed there, there were some reaction, right? So people wanted to understand better the plan of Cryptos, where Cryptos was going, how to treat some pain points that we highlighted in this MAA, and mainly discussing with Seth, we said, okay, you guys deserve a chance to really clarify those points and to let the people understand where you are today and where you want to go later into the future, right? So this was the reason why we did this MA. Then, of course, we are community-based, that the community will decide next steps. But at least I think it was very useful to show everyone your roadmap and your next steps.
Thank you, Giuseppe. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss these issues. We welcome constructive feedback, and I'm glad we had this conversation. And I would just leave it that if people have concerns, questions, my email is seth.melamed@quoine.com. I'd be happy to answer the questions and talk in more in depth if there's anything. And when people do sign up, you'll get our newsletter and you'll see all the new products that we're rolling out and enhancements. And we cannot wait to have Thrive listed on our platform. We think it's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be great. So thank you very much for organizing this, Giuseppe. I really appreciate it.
Thanks to you guys for clarifying and for giving this answer to the community. Thanks again, and have a good rest of the evening.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye.